Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, your daily yoga podcast with your host Raghunath and co-host and bestie and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York City, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to our show. Welcome to the Bhagavatam show. We are here live on Zoom today. It's interview day, which is Sunday. We get to sleep in from our normal 5 a.m. And on Saturday and Sunday, Saturday we take questions. Sunday we have a special guest on the show every Sunday. And it's people that we find that their path and their journey is inspiring. It touches our heart. We know them and we want to share them with you. And today we have Dravida Prabhu. Dravida Prabhu, you want to do the official Kaustubha introduction to Dravida?
Sure.
Official.
Sure. Dravida Prabhu is a Vaishnava scholar, musician, and poet. He began practicing Bhakti Yoga back in 1973 in New York City. And he began his career editing these Sanskrit works of Srila Prabhupada in 1975, beginning with Back to Godhead magazine, which led to his service as an editor for the Bhakti-Vedanta Book Trust, which is a service that he continues to this day, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So that means 45 years you've been editing for the Bhakti-Vedanta Book Trust.
Yes, I have.
I offer my deepest respect to you for that service. In 1983, he joined a team of Sanskrit scholars and translators in producing the 10th, 11th, and 12th cantos of the Srimad-Bhagavatam, which we read here every day on Wisdom of the Sages, which was the effort to complete the work which Srila Prabhupada had not finished before he passed from this world. Throughout all these 45 years of immersion in spiritual literature, Dravida Prabhu has developed a love for the Sanskrit language and especially the elaborate Sanskrit prosody of the Srimad-Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and other important works of bhakti literature. His devotion and expertise in memorizing and chanting these beautiful and inspiring verses is what we would particularly like to highlight today. So we feel so fortunate to have you here, Dravida Prabhu. Thank you for coming to the show.
Welcome. Can I give my own little personal bio about Dravida Prabhu?
Yeah, but just one thing before we jump in. Should we make whatever announcements we have to make first before we dive in? Because otherwise, right?
Well, if you're sure. If you're listening and if you'd like to join us live on Zoom every day, it's 5 a.m. Monday through Friday. Great way to start your day hearing transcendental truth. Wisdom of the Sages is for people who have an affection for yoga culture. We want to learn the roots and the essence of the teachings. Nowadays, things become so watered down. Yoga's just become everything. Where is this coming from? What are the roots of it? And how is it relevant to today's life for the ups and downs, the tragedies, the joys? How is it relevant? So we dive into what's considered the cream of the crop of Vedic literature. Matter of fact, we can talk to Dravida Prabhu about the Vedic teachings and why the Srimad-Bhagavatam is so important. But we study it every morning. And then Saturdays, we have questions at 8. So you can listen to us on Zoom live. All you have to do is get the secret code from Mara. So all you have to do is write Mara at wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. That's wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. And she will give you that secret code. Then you can join us live. And we have created this incredible community. It's unbelievable. We got like 7,000 to 10,000 people who listen to the Bhagavatam every day. And it's exciting. And the community bolsters us. And that's why we have community. It lifts us when we're low. And then we help when other people are low. And it's a community bringing people to upgrade the quality of their existence.
And you know one way that they do that, Raghunath?
How?
Is for our Patreon members, which is about 1/10 of those people that you mentioned, right? About 1 in 10 of our daily listeners are Patreon subscribers. But you can come in at any price you want. You give whatever you can, but you enter a community where you're going to get a lot more content. This past week we had Divya altar teaching the fundamentals of Ayurveda. We had yoga classes. We had so much going on there. You also can get onto our Discord thread and join that community with so much information. And one of the Discord threads is our 12-step, Bhakti 12-step thread. And
very powerful.
Very powerful. Out of that Patreon community has grown now like a Bhakti-related 12-step program that's online. Jiva, my old friend, has taken up the reins and is heading that up. Every Saturday, she's going to begin it's called a step study. People that are familiar with 12-step may know more about that, but like it's like you do work together, you know, and you go away for the week and you come back and you discuss what you did, and they're going to be breaking into different groups, like, because Zoom lets you do that, where you come together as one group and then you break into separate rooms and you come back. And so they're going to have, like, on Saturday there's a step study. It's 10 minutes after Wisdom of the Sages ends.
Okay, here's a question. What if you're not addicted to anything? Can you still join the group? You have no major. What if you're just addicted to Maya? I'm addicted to Maya.
Well, we can ask about that.
Maybe put that on the board, Nancy Rothman. If we're addicted, can we join?
Oh, and Nancy Rothman is starting to play a role in that, and other important senior people with 12 steps that are part of our community will be helping with that. So every Saturday, 10 minutes after Wisdom of the Sages, there's step study. And also on Sunday, 10 minutes after Wisdom of the Sages, they're going to take Bhagavad Gita verses and speak about them in correlation with the 12-step literature.
Powerful
so yeah,
stuff.
there's a lot going on with that. So we want to bring that up. We'll be kind of, I don't know, promoting is the right word, but making that more, letting people know more about that as we go forward.
There's something powerful about within a group of confidence, and this is advice. This is the devotee or spiritual practice, is revealing your heart and listening. You know, in confidence. And so I'm really proud of all those people doing that. And so, yeah.
How do people join Patreon if they want to join Patreon?
They join by going to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages, and then they can unlock various goodies, like starting Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. We have yoga classes this week as well. Lori Pag, senior Dharma Mitra teacher, been to India with me maybe millions of times. And she's a wonderful lady. She's teaching tomorrow at 10 a.m. Now, Dravida Prabhu, may I explain how I met you? Do you mind?
Not at all.
It was a Youth of Today tour when I was 22 years old in 1988. It was the last tour before I became a monk. And I knew I was really interested in spirituality. And I tell you, Krishna works things in such magic ways. When you really want to, like, give your life to Krishna, and I was struggling with material existence, I said, I really need Krishna. I'm going to do this last tour. I don't know why Krishna's putting me on tour. I don't want to do it anymore. I just really want to give myself to God. And that was my mood. I was doing the tour begrudgingly. And 3 days before the tour, the van exploded. Unusable. And
it
then
exploded?
Exploded!
It exploded.
The engine block cracked.
Okay.
Then
that was one of those Raghunath embellishments there.
Well, explosion, engine block cracked. You know what I mean? Okay. It wasn't like an IAD or anything.
I was picturing one of these action movie scenes. So you're all running from the van and it explodes.
And so anyway, that was every cent I had ever saved, $3,000 to buy that van. It was gone immediately. And our roadie, who you really need a roadie on tour, quit. So I thought, this is Krishna's plan. Now I don't have to do the tour. This was the last final Youth of Today tour. And then I don't have to do the tour. I'm just going to give my life to Krishna. The next day, out of the blue, Steve Reddy, also known as Sachi Sutta, called me from Albany, New York, and he now runs Equal Vision Records, Mantrology Records with his wife, Kaylee, who we should get on the show sometime too. She's wonderful. But he called me and said, hey, I'm doing nothing this summer and I have a van. You want me to be your roadie? And I said, okay, maybe this is Krishna's arrangement. So he picked me up from my mom's house in Connecticut, and we drove, straight from Connecticut to Miami. That was our first show in Miami. And we had a couple of days off. And no one else in the band were into Krishna consciousness. And the first thing out of Steve's mouth when we got in that car was, hey, I heard you're into Krishna. Tell me about Krishna. And we stayed up all night and just talked about Bhakti-yoga. And we drove straight to South Beach, which is where the temple was. And I said, I'm going to stay at the temple. We have 2 nights off. I'm going to stay at the temple tonight. Does anybody want to stay with me? And all the guys in the band were like, no way. And Steve goes, yeah, I'll stay. And so we stayed. And who's the first person we met? Actually, we met Panchagoda, the temple president of Vrindavan, who was the temple president there.
Okay. And who was the second person that you met?
The second person was Dravida. I remember sitting in this beautiful restaurant on South Beach, this Art Deco temple facing South Beach. It was such a beautiful property. And Steve said, Dravida like in so many words, I'm paraphrasing, but Dravida melted his heart. And Steve's sort of like a tough guy, sort of like rough around the edges. But when he met Dravida, he melted his heart. And Dravida melted my heart too, as well. And when you meet people who are really seriously practicing their bhakti, they melt your heart. They change your heart. They say that even a moment's association with a great soul is enough to change your entire trajectory of your life. And so it happened to me. And when I see you to this day, Dravida, I'm so inspired. Matter of fact, when I moved to Los Angeles, you were living there and we were living on the block, and me and my wife would invite you to our house. And he used to chant to my older sons when they were little boys. He used to just chant, just like we're going to ask him to do today, chant the glories of the Bhagavatam. Welcome to our show. I'm so honored to have you still in my life.
Hare Krishna, Raghunath. Thank you. I must be honest, after all these years, I've forgotten some of those pastimes. I do remember sitting in my room, and I don't know if that was that first trip. Did you come down there again, or was it just a one trip?
I don't know.
I don't know. I really don't remember either. Hey, I have an excuse. I'm over 70, you know. But yeah, those were. I was immersed in the Bhagavatam. I was working on translating, and I was coming across all of these incredible verses and pastimes. And I was memorizing these verses even before they were published. I said this is the greatest engagement, I think, in the whole universe, to be meditating on Krishna's Leela and working on just how to present them, and polish the English and do all these things that I had to do. So that was a great blessing that I felt. And I do remember meeting you, and I had no idea that I had such an effect on Shachi Sutta. But that's very gratifying that I could have some good effect on somebody like that.
Prabhu, so you had a long, a journey into yoga as a teenager. You went to the ashram of Yogi Gupta in Manhattan, Swami Satchidananda. What made you turn towards bhakti?
Okay, just one.
What was New York like then? What year was that?
This was about 1972. And just to orient everyone, I wasn't really a teenager by that time. I was in my early 20s. I was about 23, maybe 24.
You look like you could practically be 24 right now. This person does not age.
He doesn't age.
I mean, that was like 1972.
He looks like the exact same when I met him.
I'm telling you, the transcendental sound vibration,
keeps you young.
Ever young, that definitely helps.
Okay.
I mean, there's even a scientific thing with the Sanskrit language, stimulating the chakras and everything. I'm not going to get into that.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I've definitely experienced how, hey, I'm in the same mood I was when I first joined the ashram in '73. If you're chanting, you're absorbed in holy name, especially. It definitely keeps you youthful.
What is it? Ayur Harati Vai Pungsa?
Ayu Harati Vai Pungsa. There's a verse in the Bhagavatam he's quoting that the rising and setting of the sun takes away the life of everybody except those who are glorifying the Lord, spending their time glorifying Krishna. So that was, in
New York, and when you were 20.
I mean, what happened was that just to give you a little of my life, I was raised as an Orthodox communist.
Really?
Father. Yes.
Hold it. Are we allowed to have him on the show?
I'm sorry, no communist welcome here.
I'm telling you, my father would pull out the Das Kapital, the English translation, every evening, and he would sit me down on the kitchen table, and I learned, the ins and outs of Marxism. And I remember a few things from that time. This is when I was a kid, 50, 60 years ago.
Wow.
And from each according to his ability, to each according to his needs.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, when I joined the ashram and became, I was living in ISKCON, and we had all, farms and things. So this is actually the motto of these temples. From each according to his ability, whatever your propensity is, you serve in that way, and you get what you need to live simply. But the main difference is that Prabhupada would mention spiritual communism. He actually would use this phrase that Krishna is in the center. He's the one who we're listening to and getting ideas from and living according to the instructions, rather than Marx or Lenin, things like that, fallible people. And so it only works when you're being nourished spiritually by Krishna consciousness. Then you can be satisfied with very simple life. It's actually liberating. I don't need this, don't need that. You find out how much you don't need, and it becomes a whole different way of living and being. And so that was a revelation. I was a child of the 60s. I would go down to Washington and demonstrate, especially against the war in Vietnam. Most of you may probably too young to directly experience that, but you read in the history books. And 68 was like the year of the revolution. We were sure it was going to happen. And we got, the assassination of Robert Kennedy, and of course Martin Luther King, and then the election of Nixon, which was like so depressing. And I was just devastated by all that. My college career was ruined. I didn't think there was any meaning to it. I was ready to go to jail against the draft. And so I just floated for several years in odd jobs. And then I got a serious case of hepatitis and went to the hospital in 69, just when the moonshot was happening, and I saw that in my hospital bed. I was there for a month. And when I came out, I needed some way of rehabilitating my health. And by good fortune, I was attracted to yoga, and that's why I got into Hatha yoga. And yes, I went to the ashram, Yogi Gupta. I spent a few months, not in the ashram, but visiting regularly and learning basics of Hatha. And then I went to, as you mentioned, I think integral yoga. And that's where eventually I learned about the Hare Krishna mantra, visited the temple, and joined in 73 in March.
At the Henry Street Temple in Brooklyn.
Henry Street Temple, where the press was.
Right.
So I was, and after a few weeks of that, they said, "Oh, this guy knows English, so why don't they?"
Most of us don't know it so well.
A proofreader, and I started out proofreading then, and then I kept with it all these years.
Awesome. And Dravida Prabhu, we study the Bhagavatam every day. Are there verses that that glorify the Bhagavatam outside of the Bhagavatam?
Verses that glorify the Bhagavatam outside of the Bhagavatam.
Can you explain some of the glories of the Bhagavatam?
I just happen to have it right on my shelf. Sri Krishna Lila Stava. This is a book that's been that was written by the most, or one of the foremost disciples of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who I'm not sure how much you know, but he was the real founder of this Hare Krishna movement, which centers on the congregational chanting of the holy name, especially the Hare Krishna mantra. And so one of his main disciples was called Sanatana Goswami, great scholar, but he was in an official position in the government, and he gave up everything, became Sannyas Goswami, and went to Vrindavan. And his younger brother was also a tremendous disciple of Lord Chaitanya. So he wrote a book called the Sri Krishna Lila Stava, and this is a book over 400 verses, and it's all based on Krishna's Lila in Vrindavan. And he gives a summary of the Leela, and then interspersed he has obeisances, and he's offering his respects to Krishna. And at the end of this book, he has glorification of the Bhagavatam. And unfortunately, I didn't. Here we go.
What verse is this?
This is verse 409. Let's see. Of the Krishna Lila Stava. Srimad-Bhagavatam Mahima Stotam, starting with 412 in that book. And should I read a little of the Sanskrit? It's simple verses, but they're
please.
Okay.
So the books that we read here every day, this is Sanatana Goswami's deep spiritual understanding of its glories.
Yes, and this the whole book is a summary of the essence, which is Krishna's Leela, especially in Vrindavan.
And also we'll say that this book is approximately 500 years old. The Bhagavatam is approximately thousands of years old. So there's a big bhakti renaissance happening in India at this time with Sri Caitanya and his disciples. including Sanatana Goswami. So now we're about to hear from Sanatana Goswami through the lips of Dravida Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. All right, so let me key up this. Is that okay? Can you hear that?
Ooh, a tambura?
The Tambura app, but it's pretty accurate.
Solid app.
Sarva Shastrabdi Piyusha, Sarva Vedaika Satpala, Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadhya, Sarva Lokaika Drikpada, O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana, Shiman Bhagavata Prabho, Kalidvanto Didaditya, Shri Krishna Parivartita, O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad-Bhagavatam, you are the sun that has risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Shri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya, Prema Varsh Yaksharayate, Sarvada Sarvasevyaya, Shri Krishnaya Namostute. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema, pure love of God. You can always be served by everyone. You are Shri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsanghi, Mangoro Man Mahadana, Man Nishtaraka Man Bhagya, Madananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu sadhu tadhayin, ati nicho chitakara, hana muncha kadachin mam, premnarit kantayos paraha. Oh, bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, oh, exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love.
That verse should be the theme of our show, right? What was it? Bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, right? We have this theme that we speak about a lot. We're all like dented cans. You know, we don't come from great culture. We come with all kind of baggage. We've got all kind of hang-ups. We've got all kind of mental disturbances. We're dented cans. But I've
got extra baggage. You know how sometimes you have to pay for extra baggage when you get on a plane? I'm carrying loads of extra baggage fees I'm getting.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much for, maybe I can share a memory. I don't know exactly when I met you. No, I must have met you because I went to San Diego were you in San Diego in 87?
No, I came here in 89.
So maybe I met you there in San Diego because I passed through there a few times then. But my clearest early memory of you, and it's a memory that I honestly, I cherish this memory in my heart to this day. And it was when I was on the Navadvip Mandala Prikrama, which is it's a 9-day pilgrimage in the most, in the birthplace of Sri Caitanya in Mayapur in West Bengal, where at that point, I think it was maybe 1,100 or 1,200 people were walking every day through these holy places. And I mean, it's so beautiful there, and we would camp out every night.
Right, like on the bank of the Ganges.
On the bank of the Ganges. And there's just incredible kirtan and incredible, discussions and incredible food. And it really felt like you were living in the pastimes of Sri Caitanya 500 years ago. It was this tremendously powerful spiritual experience. And I was my guru, Tamal Krishna Goswami's servant for that. At the beginning of the 9 days, he handed me his bag. And he said, you don't leave my side for the next 9 days. And so I was with him and with his close friends and associates who were all important leaders of this particular bhakti movement and all great, scholars and devotees themselves. And so we would walk, and sometimes you'd walk in the morning for miles, through this beautiful landscape. And I remember towards the end of that morning, one of those mornings, it's a 9-day thing, and we settled down under a tree. And I just remember how beautiful it was. And I remember they had the langur monkeys those big, powerful monkeys, and they were running around and jumping in the trees, and everyone was just in ecstasy. Everyone was so happy, really felt that full spiritual, bliss. And so my guru lied down. I was sitting at his side, and he and all of his sannyasi friends were like lying on the ground, just in bliss. And at like a scene straight out of Chaitanya Charitamrita, like when Pataparuja speaks to Sri Caitanya, in the gardens there.
Yeah.
You sat there, and for their pleasure, just spontaneously from memory started quoting beautiful, beautiful verses in Glories of Sri Caitanya. And it was just magical. I just remember just how magical it was. And I thought to myself, what a gift to share, to be able to retain these within yourself, and at any moment to be able to break out these prayers. But do you remember some of the prayers that you chanted at that time?
I do. There's one that actually Prabhupada would chant. And this is an obeisance to Lord Chaitanya. Ahananda lila maya vigrahaya hema madivya chavisundaraya tasmaya mahaprema rasa pradaya Chaitanya chandraya namo namaste. So just a context, this is from a work called the Chaitanya Chandramrita, the nectar of the moon of Lord Chaitanya. And this verse refers to that moon. So he says, Ananda Lila Maya Vigrahaya. Your very form is composed of blissful pastimes. Ananda Lila Maya Vigrahaya. With your every motion, your every glance, everything you can say. Hema Madivya Chavi Sundaraya. Very beautiful with this effulgence of molten gold. Hema Madivya Chavi Sundaraya. Tasmaya Mahapre Marasa Pradaya. I offer my obeisances. I bow down. To you who give the highest levels of prema bhakti, of love of God. Mahaprema Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. Again I offer this obeisance to the moon of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then there's another one of my favorites, a short verse, but very sweet. Namas Chaitanya Chandraya Koti Chandranana Tuje Premanandabdi Chandraya Charu Chandrangshu Hasine. I offer my humble obeisance unto the moon, the rising full moon of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Koti Chandranana Tuje, whose beautiful face is effulgent like millions of moons, very sweet and soothing. Premanandabdi Chandra, he appears to be just like a full moon that has arisen from the ocean of the bliss of love of God. Koti Chandranana Tuje, Charu Chandraksu Hasine, and his smile is as soothing as moonshine. The whole thing is just like
Moon.
There's a bunch of them like
metaphors.
that.
Beautiful.
And by the way, I have a recording of this that I made of the whole thing, which I can share. I just give these away now. I can.
Yeah.
You've got to, you got to put a cease and desist on your Spotify account, because I know you're not doing it, and then put it all up there, because so many people want to hear your stuff. I think you have to stop whoever's doing it. I think that's the legal way to go about it. And then you got to put
anyway,
it up.
I'll communicate with you on this later. You can help me get that up there.
People are also asking about your on the chat board. They're asking about your Tambura app here.
They also want the Tambura.
I can share that.
Do you know the name of it?
App? I'll tell you, it's not just Tambura. It's Tabla also.
Oh wow!
It's called iTabla.
iTabla. He was.
Yeah,
right.
it's an Apple thing. Just get on
it.
Nice.
People are also flying off the rails too, and they want to know more. They really are enjoying this. Do you have some shlokas to glorify sweet baby Krishna?
Not just any Krishna, sweet baby Krishna.
Yes, I do.
He's got them all.
We have no form today. We're just a free form.
This is a freestyle.
And I just really like to hear a gentleman reading poetry to me, and I find that very joyful.
All right, now you're talking. So just give me a second here. I can give the one I gave earlier, which was before we started, right?
Oh yeah, oh please, yeah.
So this is by Bilvamangal.
And before you do, let me mention that you not only memorize like tons and tons of these beautiful verses and can give their Sanskrit and English translations, but you also part of your where your heart is and what you do with your life is you take those and you compose them in rhyming, the translations in rhyming English poetry, correct?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
we're going to want to hear more of that, but I believe on this verse you do that too.
Yes, yes. So this is a verse by Bilvamangal Thakur. Bilvamangal Thakur is a very famous poet who wrote a book called the Krishna Karnamrita, which Lord Chaitanya would hear, one of the few books that he would hear at the end. And it's just, I'll share some of the other verses about that. Well, let me start with that one. It's not about baby Krishna, I'll get to that. But this is a verse, one of the first I ever poeticized. And it's quoted twice or three times in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's very sweet. The word Madhuram in Sanskrit means sweet. So listen for that word in this verse. Madhuram, Madhuram, Papadasya Vibho, Madhuram, Madhuram, Vadanam, Madhuram, Madhugandh Madhusmita Metadaho, Madhuram, 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 Madhuram. You can play a drum to that. Sweet, sweet is my dear Lord's form. Sweet is still his face, so fair. But his honey-scented, gentle smile is sweet beyond compare. Now, this is baby Krishna, but sweet baby Krishna. I did this before we started, so they heard it already, but no one knows.
You are this is the real sweet baby Krishna. I've been a crazy imposter.
Nitam navanamanitam ke natapitam payakwame modari. It is samodi the tantam boomam bahadam namame gopalam. Now you can notice you can play a drum to this, right?
Yeah, the rhythm.
So Krishna is speaking, little baby Krishna, younger than 5. Who stole my butter? Who drank my milk? And where can my flute be found? I bow to the cowherd child who shouts these words as he rolls on the ground. He's throwing a tantrum, and Mother Yashoda.
But he's so adorable, right, Raghu?
That's an adorable tantrum.
There's one here. Just give me a second here to key this up. All right. Because this is again by Bilvamangal, and he's describing how Krishna is crawling on the ground. I didn't. Anyway, let's see if I can remember. I know the Sanskrit by memory. Kinkini kinkana dabasadam kinkini kinkana dabasadam buvadin kana sadatam tam kunkunu kunkunu padiyukadam kunkunu kadabushadam hadim bande. Now, just a note. You can hear the incredible poetry in the Sanskrit, which is full of words that we call onomatopoeias in English. They mean like what they sound.
Like cuckoo is an onomatopoeia.
Kinkini, kinkini is the sound of his ankle bells. So I bow to Hari whose waist bells tinkle as he crawls in his father's yard. His bangles and ankle bells softly jingle as he melts Vrindavan's heart. I bow to Hari whose waist bells tingle as he crawls in his father's yard. His bangles and ankle bells softly. You can chant that 100 times and get absorbed.
You know, there's something that we've mentioned on our show before, but you're illustrating it now. And as we read Bhagavatam, that it's not only a book of scripture, a book of spiritual instruction, even a book of storytelling, but it's a book of poetry.
Oh, yes, amazing.
Right? And because we're not familiar with Sanskrit, because we're not familiar with Sanskrit poetry and the subtleties and the depth of it, it's like there's whole huge aspects of this that we're totally unaware of as we read it. But hearing you chant it, it gives us a clue of just how much more is there, right? Yeah.
The Bhagavatam itself begins, the very third verse, the third verse of the whole Bhagavatam, there's 18,000 verses, is a call to drink in the nectar, to drink in through your ears, the nectar of the sound of the Bhagavatam, which is really the basis of this movement. Lord Chaitanya, he based the whole movement on the Srimad-Bhagavatam, which he saw as the real commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, which embodies all the philosophy of the Vedas, the essence of the philosophy. But it needs explanation. It needs to be, and the Srimad-Bhagavatam is that. So let me just share this first. I don't have a poem for it, but it's a lot of devotees know. So you know this one too. After 2 verses, giving a very philosophical presentation of who Krishna is and what the Bhagavatam is, and then you have this nectar verse which shows you what the Bhagavatam is going to be. Oh, wait a minute. Nigamakal-patadogalitam palam sukumakadamita dravasammitam pibata bhagavatam asamalayam mahobaholasika vibabuka.
Ah,
So, which means that this Srimad-Bhagavatam is the ripened fruit of the tree of all the Vedic literatures, which is the Nigama Kalpatada, and it's a desire fruit. You can get from it, fulfill your most ardent desires of the soul. Galitam Palam, and it's very ripe and sweet, just like a mango that's so ripe you have to practically have to drink it. You cut into it and you have to drink the juice and the pulp. So he says, "Oh, wise souls, drink this Bhagavatam, Pibata Bhagavatam. It's imperative, Rasamalayam, up to the point of liberation and beyond. Liberation is just the first installment. Then you dive into the ocean of nectar." Vibhata Bhagavatam Muhuraho Rasika Bhuvibhavika. Drink it again and again. And Prabhupada set up this movement where every morning there's a Bhagavatam class and you're reading it every morning now. Take advantage of the human form of life right at the beginning of Bhagavatam. So it is
so nice.
Yeah. So let me share a couple of these verses from the 10th canto, which is said to be the summum bonum. These are the pastimes of Krishna. When people hear about Krishna, they hear about Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan and like that. So this is in the first couple of verses in a book, chapter called the Venu Gita, where Krishna plays his flute. Venu means flute. And this is a song sung by the gopis in separation of Krishna. He's out in the forest playing his flute and doing so many things. And they're at home doing their duties and they're remembering him. And they chant this beautiful song. And this is the introduction to that chapter. And I put this introduction into poetry. Kusamita Vanada Dishishmi Bringat Vitikula Gushta Sadaksarin Mahidram Modapada Vagai Sharianga Sahapachupada Balashtakujavenam Barhapidam Natavatapapu Karnayo Karnikaram Bimbran Vasa Kakanaka Kapisham Baijayanting Chamadam Randran Veno Hadada Sudaya Puriyan Gopa Vrindaranyam Sopadamanam Pravishan Gita Kiti. So now you have to get the scene a little bit. There's been the rainy season has stopped now and autumn has come. And so everything is very clear and all the foliage is very luxuriant. So Krishna is now entering the forest with his friends. Vrindavan's rivers, lakes, and hills ring out with charming hums and trills as flocks of birds and maddened bees rejoice among the flowering trees. To those idyllic woods and glens repairs Govinda with his friends, Sri Rama and the cowherd boys, to taste the most exquisite joys.
Oh.
And as they walk along the way, absorbed in herding and in play, Sri Krishna, beauty absolute, begins to blow his mystic flute. With peacock plume upon his head and fragrant flower on each ear, he entered Braja's woods with tread sublime, a dancer without peer. His golden yellow raiment glows, his garland reaches to his knees, and from his lips the nectar flows and fills his flute with melodies. As Krishna thus begins his day, with friends who sing his glories sweet, he beautifies the forest way with fine impressions of his feet. Samadhi culminates in this, to always see the scene of bliss within oneself and outside too. May Krishna give this boon to you.
Ah,
that last verse was from the Krishna book. Prabhupada talks about this is the ultimate in transcendental meditation, to see this scene, and anyone who can keep this in his mind is in Samadhi.
Prabhu, that's so beautiful. By your poeticizing it into the English language, it just really helps us understand it so much more.
That's why I made the effort to make it.
Oh, thank you for that.
I'll tell you, when the Sanskrit is there, and we were talking about maybe starting a regular Sanskrit memorization.
Here for Wisdom of the Sages.
Yeah. So
how many people would be interested in a regular class with Dravida Prabhu? Look, it's at the charts right here. People are just banging on their cameras right now.
Right. So yeah, I mean that I'm very excited about doing that because and I don't know if you know this, but Divya Alta, Divyambara.
She was just on the show last week.
Very expert. I don't know if she chanted any shlokas. She probably did her Ayurvedic thing, but she started out. She's a wild chanter. She knows all that.
No, she chanted for Venu Gita also.
Oh, she did. Okay.
Yeah, she did, and she mentioned you and how you were her shloka guru.
Yeah.
And but just this thought that there's this whole, there's Srila Vyasadeva, who composed all of this Vedic literature. And so much of it was about karma, about how to live in this world in such a way where you could enjoy materially in a pious way. And then so much of that was yoga philosophy, about jnana, about liberation, about becoming free from the sufferings of this world. But when he wanted to clarify everything and show where it all leads and where it all culminates, he gave the Bhagavatam. And the Bhagavatam culminates in the 10th canto, the verses that you were just reading. And when you get to those verses, they're not just liberating and about how becoming free from suffering. The verses themselves are the deepest, richest, most beautiful poetry, just glorifying this beautiful Lord in the most beautiful setting. And the heart just melts there. And that's where yoga is meant to go. Ultimately, it goes there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you can, I mean, I've been chanting these, I mean, when I joined, I see, because I had a background, it's almost a genetic thing. My father was a drummer in a band in like 1920,
Okay.
And maybe I inherited.
I'm gonna picture your father. He's this communist jazz drummer.
Right, exactly.
In some,
Wait a second, I thought you were 45 years old. How old are you?
I'm 72 now.
Oh, God. You look like it's crazy. There's a proof.
I can also make public my smoothie formula, which helps me. But anyway, so I always was into rhythm. Even as a little kid, I was smarty pants, and I would finish my homework and I would start, beating on the desk. And so my father, bless his soul, he introduced me to music when I was 5 or 6. I was playing the recorder. And so when I joined and I started chanting just Gita verses, everything's got a rhythm to it. I was immediately attracted, even as a bhakta, to do that. And then when we started to get the Bhagavatam verses and the CC, opened up a whole bunch of new verses, the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So I was, and I learned from one of the Sanskrit guys in the Sanskrit department, just how to figure out the meter. And so that was like a revelation to me. And I was living in these shlokas and memorizing them from early on, So, and this is exactly what we're supposed to do. This is reality. The reality, is this transcendental, it's just beyond the veil of the material world, which we've been living in for so long. And that is this world of pure love and aesthetics. The word vidagda, the beauty, the sounds, the fragrances, everything is sublime. And it's meant to, that's our real life. We've been living in a kind of a covered illusory world for time immemorial. And that's what Krishna consciousness is getting back to, that real life. And even in these times when there's so much, anxiety and despair, we can draw on that fount of reality of transcendental sound, beginning with Hare Krishna mantra, and overcome these things and have a space within ourselves where we can tolerate so much and even be enlivened in these times. So it's very practical.
I know this might sound redundant, but can you chant more verses from the 10th canto?
Okay. Let's see. I'm just trying to think of one that I could chant that has some poems to it.
Or anything,
or just your poetry,
or
your
stuff
own
you're
poetry.
working on, anything you got in your head right now. We'd always see, my wife and my kids would always see Dravida at lunchtime, because at the Los Angeles temple, people would go for lunch, and they have a little super inexpensive restaurant. It was great lunches. So we'd go there, and if I saw Dravida there, we'd just go up to him and be like, "What verse are you working on?" And then he just changed the whole atmosphere of the room, just started reciting shlokas for us.
All right, let me give you this one. This is one of my favorites. This is from a book by Rupa Goswami called the Govinda Virudavali, which is amazing format of Sanskrit poetry.
How many books did these people write?
Yeah. Rupa Goswami wrote 100,000 verses, Sanskrit verses, which is just to try to conceive of that, it's impossible. And here's just one. Let me just give you a sample of what the format of Govinda Virudavali. Virudavali, this very refined Sanskrit form. Viruda means to call out, and of course Govinda means call out to Krishna with prayers and glorification. And Avali simply means a series. So the Virudavali form, and Jiva Goswami also wrote a work in this form, is a series of metric units that are all about Krishna. I'll give you an example. I can't give you the translation to this. It'd be a bit much. But this is a sample. And it goes on like that for about 10 minutes. So this is a verse, and in between I'll have regular verses, but they're all like super exquisite. So this one especially caught my attention, and I put it into poetry. It's a prayer. The devotees, the basic thing we pray for is pure love for Krishna. This is taught in pure loving devotion in the Shikshastika, which I don't think we'll have time for today. If you want, we can do that. But this is one that especially caught my attention, and I put it into a poem. So he's praying to Krishna. Bujanga the Pachandaka, Spuda the Kanda Chudankure, Dirankasha, Draganchala, Brahmina Badna Bringam Brahme, Patanga to Hitustati, Vanakati, the Kedi Priye, Padaspuda to Me Mahostwai Mukunda, Shudharati. Shudharati means pure love. You wear the best of crests, a crown of perfect peacock plumes. Your dancing glances stun the bees, meandering midst the blooms. You relish love play in a cottage by Kalindi's shore. O Krishna, may pure love for you be mine forevermore. That's the verse. You can say it 10 times. It doesn't get boring. Here's a sample of a Virudavali life poem. I'll just do the first verse because this gets kind of long. But I'll give you the English too. Now here's, you can play it, you can hear the Mridanga beat behind this one. Yamalajana bandana mashitalandana mahiganjana ghanalasa badam bashapada parandana mabasta kandana matisundana manavindakaram. Vadagopa vadujana vidichita pujana makujana namavenunadam smadanama vachakshana makadabalakshana tanalakshadamati dakshadam. Which means, you broke the 2 Yamalajan trees. You love to delight your pure devotees. You crushed the pride of the Kali snake with your prancing dance in the Yamuna lake. You're the coward's prince and the life and soul. To serve you with love's their only goal. In the caves you meet the gopis fair and enjoy sweet loving pastimes there. You're dashing, clever, and most debonair. Your lotus hands give blessings rare. To worship you again and again is the way of the wives of the cowherd men. When the gopis hear the flute you hold, their passion grows 1,000-fold. In your transcendental form we find astounding traits of every kind. Of amorous stroking, you're the king. Indeed, you're skilled at everything, Krishna. And actually, there's a way of presenting this. I have slideshow and everything. In between each couplet, you just say, "Oh Krishna, Jai Shri Krishna." Like it goes on for 5 verses.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
I did this one in Mayapur. Just where they're building the TOVP now. Many years ago, they had the gardens with the fountains. You remember that?
Yeah, in the birthplace of Sri Caitanya.
Yes, yeah.
The devotees of the Hare Krishna movement are building a huge prophesized temple, and so at that place it hasn't been completed yet.
With the land they're building it on,
right?
They have beautiful gardens
for
fountains, and a stage at one end,
yeah.
Where before the big festival of Lord Chaitanya's appearance, or Purnima every year, they would have various presentations, dance and music, and some plays sometimes. So one year, the devotee in charge asked me to do something, to start that whole thing off. So this is what I was working on. I finished working on it, 5 verses, and I had a similar tambura thing going. It was a one-man show.
Okay.
In Mayapur one time, it was very ecstatic.
Dravida Prabhu, a
Yes.
lot of people are asking about the glories of the Sanskrit language. From what we're told, it's the mother of all languages. Can you tell us something about Sanskrit itself? Is it the mother of all language? Is it the language of the heavens?
Yes, it's spoken in the heavenly planets where the devas live, demigods we call them. There's even the script. Everyone is familiar with that Sanskrit script. It's called Devanagari, which means the language that's spoken in the cities of the devas. Sanskrit itself, the very word, means perfectly composed, perfectly logical, and I think we mentioned this about how NASA was looking for a language to help with their, programs and stuff. This was many years ago, and they went through all languages. They came and they decided on Sanskrit because it's so perfectly composed, and they got a way to use it. I haven't investigated how they use it, but it is spoken. There's a kind of a vernacular Sanskrit that's spoken in intimately in Vrindavan, and you see some verses of that in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Mukunda Dutt, our learned musician friend, you know him. He
Yes.
studied that in college. You can study that language and Sanskrit as well. So when you and one of the things about Sanskrit that's unique is what you hear, the meter, the chanda. It's called chanda, poetics, and there's literally hundreds of them. I have a file I can share with you with hundreds of them. They're used in the Bhagavatam, about a few dozen of them. But the Goswamis, like Rupa Goswami, Sanatana, I mentioned, they perfected them and they employed them. And the words, like certain sound combinations, are meant to evoke a certain emotion in your heart. Like the ND, like in the word Ananda, and you have Nanda Nandana, Nanda Nandana, which means the delight of Nanda Maharaj. And there's verses where you can hear those ND sounds. Tabajayati Nanda Nanda Napadada Vindo, the Bhakti Makadandan Tayan Madhuri, Lavagri Mukti Sukam Shuktitamiti. Oh Nanda Nandana, delight, wonderful son of Nanda Maharaj. Even a drop of devotion to your lotus feet is actually like a great ocean that we can sport in for, eternally, like that. So, the Sanskrit language is, this is why all the Goswamis, they wrote in it, because it is most versatile for expressing the beauty and the pastimes and the philosophy, Christian consciousness.
And I've heard there are still spoken people where they speak Sanskrit. It's not like it's a dead language. Is that correct?
There are places in India where whole communities, I don't know if you find a city that's all speaking it, but it's still a spoken language, and it's very it has powers. I mean, everything in Sanskrit is not transcendental. There are also mantras you can like tantra, where people get into that and they learn how to cast spells. And
can you teach me a few of those privately? I'm working on
Raghunath is always looking for
tactics.
Raghunath always wants the secret mantras, whatever it's about. If it's secret,
take whatever secret mantra you got. Levitation, making myself very tiny, whatever you got, I'll take it.
Yeah, that's one of the yogic cities. But just to come back, the most important mantra is this Hare Krishna mantra.
I promise I'll chant that one too. Just teach me the secret ones.
I mean, who are we? Prabhupada, the history of Prabhupada's, life, he tried like anything to make it happen in India. He had various starts. You have to read the Lilamrita, the history. But finally, when he was 69, his health wasn't that great. And he said, I'm going to America, where they don't think they know about Krishna. The problem in India is, as a Christian, I already know about Krishna. My grandmother taught me, But in America, nobody knew anything. So he came to America, and after almost a year of struggle, he found receptive audience in the Lower East Side, in the middle of the hippie era, and he found some young men and women who were ready to listen and practice. And the main practice was chanting Hare Krishna. Somehow or other. He went out to the park and beat his half of a bongo drum that he had, and for 3 hours he's chanting, and he had a small crew, and gradually people came. And so this Mahamantra is so powerful that it can purify very quickly, no matter what state you're in. And that was what we needed. This is Kali Yuga. And so Lord Chaitanya, especially, he gave this Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And it's part of the Vedas, in the Upanishads, Iti Shodashikam Namnam Kalikamashanashanam, that you can search through all the Vedas. You will not find a more efficient way of counteracting the evils of this age and putting you in a transcendental state than chanting this specific mantra. It's right there. So that it all begins there. But it's Sanskrit. The name Krishna is non-different from Krishna. You can associate with God, become purified just by chanting. There's no restriction, no time, no place, no candidate. And this is, Lord Chaitanya's great revolution. And there's another thing, and that is how to meditate on it. Well, we know there's two main ways, through the individual chanting and japa and the kirtan. And he especially emphasized this dancing and chanting, because this process of playing musical instruments, dancing, and singing can also be a big way of staying illusioned if it's in the modes of nature, you know. But it can also help to get you absorbed in that sound and so forth, and be very purifying. So it all begins there.
Well, Prabhu, since you're speaking about the glories of the holy name,
Yes.
I thought that might be a segue. I know that you've composed a very beautiful, or poeticized a very beautiful prayer about the holy name is truly all that be. I believe that's the refrain or something like that.
Yes, yes. Well, I mean, the original isn't against Sanskrit. This is known as the Keval Ashtaka. You want me? Should I do the Sanskrit in English? It'll take about 5 minutes.
This is also Rupa Goswami.
We're not going anywhere.
No, this is not Rupa Goswami.
Oh, who did Keval Ashtaka?
For many years, we thought it was anonymous. No one who wrote it knew. Who wrote it. Then, within the last few years, devotees, by research, they found that these verses were written by an associate. I don't know if he was a disciple of Bhakti-yogi Thakur, who we highly respected, named Sri Nilakanta. I'm not sure if it was a Goswami or not. And he wrote 100 of them. And these are 8 that were chosen. I don't know by whom, maybe by Bhakti-yogi Thakur. That had
100 verses.
100
okay.
Of this format, and about the holy name. And so these 8 were chosen by somebody, and they're very beautiful. And this word Harinam Eva Kevalam is coming from another important verse Lord Chaitanya, popularized. That in Harinam Eva Kevalam Kalo Nasteva Gatadanyata, which I put into a poem. If you want to achieve the supreme goal of life in this age when dissension and chaos abound, there is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way that can ever be found but to chant Krishna's name, but to chant Krishna's name, but to chant Krishna's name with a stout-hearted vow, and to pray, O Lord Krishna, O friend of the poor, let my head ever unto your lotus feet bow.
This is like transcendental Dr. Seuss.
So that's a very ancient verse that this poet was inspired by.
Yes. And he took that one line, Harinam Eva Kevalam, and he incorporated it into these 100 verses, of which these 8 have been distilled.
And that you have now poeticized into English.
If you like, I can chant. I also added a 9th verse, because anyway, which hopefully not offensive. So should I do the Sanskrit is quite short. They're just small verses.
Do what you do.
Okay.
Give it to us.
So it's this one. I don't need any prompt, so I should know by heart. So he says, Moradam Maradevyopi, Mangalebyopi Mangalam, Pavanam Pavanebyopi, Hader Namai Vakevalam. Of sweet things, it's the sweetest you will taste at any time. Of things that bring good fortune, it's the perfect paradigm. Of things that purify, it purifies most powerfully. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that breathe. Abramastam aparyantam savam mayamayam jagat satyam satyam punak satyam hare nama vakevalam. From Brahma's realm atop the sky down to the lowly grass, illusion reigns in Maya Devi's treacherous morass. The truth, the only truth, the name of Shri Hari, the holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. Sagadu supita chapi samata bhagavopisa shikshi sada smartam hare nama vakevalam. He's the guru, he's the father, he's the friend most true, and she's the real mother who most kindly teaches you to always hear and chant the holy name of Shri Hari. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. Yikshvasena hi vishvaso kadadun ho bhavishyati kirtane yamata balyad hare nama vakevalam. Remember that our final breath may come at any time, no matter if we're old and sick or in our youthful prime. So young and old alike should chant the name incessantly. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. Hari Sada Satra Tatra Bhagavatajana Gayanti Bhakti Bhavena Hare Nama Evikevalam. Lord Shri Hari forever dwells wherever devotees whose hearts are filled with bliss and free of all impurities uplift their voices high and sing his name in ecstasy. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. Aho dukkam mahadukkam dukkad ramyata kachatam vismatam ratna hare nama vakevalam. Alas, what sorrow, what great pain, the worst calamity for people to forget the holy name of Shri Hari. Although the name's a priceless gem, mere broken glass they see. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. Just fill your ears, fill them with the name of Shri Hari. Just chant the name with all sincerity. Just sing the name, just sing the holy name eternally. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. It makes this world appear like bits of straw upon the ground. Resplendently it reigns supreme, divinity and sound. It's filled with transcendental bliss and peerless purity. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. So those are the 8 verses. I added one more. Inspired to glorify the holy name of Shri Hari, Shri Nilakanta wrote this hymn in Sanskrit poetry. I pray that those who hear this lowly version made by me will chant the holy name of Shri Hari in ecstasy.
Thank you for that blessing.
That is so nice.
Now, by the way, in addition to any of my recorded things, I can also share my poetry file. I'll send you the PDF. You can distribute it amongst everybody.
Yeah, well, we should mention
on the
that we
Patreon.
That on this Friday, I believe we settled at 8 a.m. your time, 11 a.m. our time, or was it 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. your time? 5 a.m. your time? What was it? Did we get the time down?
I don't know. It'd be a little easier for me to 8.
8 a.m. your time, 11 a.m. our time.
Yeah.
East Coast time. Okay,
Yeah.
so that Dravida Prabhu will come back and he's gonna share with us like his process of memorizing shlokas and going deeper into this, right?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that'll be there for everyone. So please mark that down in your calendars.
And maybe
That'll be
we
at
can
11 a.m.
field some-
Eastern time.
And we're
Field
getting a lot of questions coming up to me right now, but we're not going to probably have time for it. And maybe we could field those that day.
Sure.
I lost who it was, but somebody asked, I think it was Sophie. Sometimes the Hare Krishna mantra is chanted backwards. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Why? Why is that? Yeah.
Well, first of all, this came up with Prabhupada's time. And he said, it doesn't matter. If you're attracted to chanting it, after a couple of mantras, you really make a difference, It appears sometimes that way in different shastras. I think it's in one Upanishad, I'm not sure which one. Lord Chaitanya presented it this way, and we follow it, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. There's also, what does it mean? And what Prabhupada explained, Hare, you're addressing the internal energy of Krishna in the form of Radharani. It's a vocative form of the word Hara. Hara is a name for Lakshmi, or Radha was the original Lakshmi. And it means she who takes away. What does she take away? Well, she takes away our difficulty, misery, but also she takes away Krishna's heart. She steals his heart. And Krishna, you may have heard, is a word based on the word karshati, which means to draw or pull. And it means he who is all attractive, all of his qualities, all of his activities, his teachings, everything. Krishna attracts our heart naturally. Rama also can be understood, as explained by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, as another name for Krishna, which means he who is the ocean of ecstatic enjoyment and who is welcoming us to enjoy also through the process of bhakti. So that's why you see it backwards and forwards, but it doesn't really make a difference. But we follow our parampara. Srila Prabhupada taught us Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. That's as far as I know on that subject.
Thank you.
Another question came from Aravind Prabhu from New Delhi. He's saying, what should our mood be when we're reading the Srimad-Bhagavatam, when we're studying the Srimad-Bhagavatam?
We should really worship the Bhagavatam, and we should be very grateful. I mean, that's but the way I approach it. How grateful we should be, of course, to Srila Prabhupada for making it accessible to us and explaining in such a wonderful way. But to all, to Srila Vyasadeva, to Krishna, who's reaching out to us. This is one of the themes that I've been emphasizing lately, how, Krishna cares. Prabhupada makes this point. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, I am the seed-giving father of all living entities. He's the father is always concerned about the welfare of his children, and Krishna more than anyone. That's why he's known as Surit, means the ever well-wisher. Surit, the greatest friend of every living entity. But only in the human life do we have a chance of appreciating that. And so Krishna reaches out to us because we can't perceive him in a spiritual form. Our vision is too clouded and covered over. So how does he reach out? He reaches out through his devotees. Sometimes he comes himself and presents his Leela and all the things that he does, you can read about it. But more often, he's reaching out through his devotees and through the sound, through the literature. And the most wonderful way in this age is through this Srimad-Bhagavatam, which, as we mentioned earlier, is the ripened fruit of all the Vedas. We don't have time or ability, and it's not necessary to plow our way through all of the 4 Vedas and all the Karmakanda section, the Upanishads and the Vedanta Sutra, and it's not necessary. If we just hear the Bhagavatam and study it in the proper line, as Srila Prabhupada has given it to us, explanation, we can be completely blessed with this purification. As it said in the Bhagavatam, I'll skip the Sanskrit for this one, that after Krishna left, he was a force for Dharma in this age, for this world when he appeared. And you study his Leela, he spoke the Bhagavad Gita. But when he left this world, the question is, well, how is the Dharma and how is religion going to be maintained? And the answer is the Bhagavatam arose, and there's a story of how it came to be, as you mentioned in the first canto, to enlighten the benighted souls of this age who need to have this access to the truth. And so our attitude in approaching Bhagavatam should be worshipful, thankful, and most of all receptive. There's a word in the Bhagavatam that Prabhupada would always translate, shushusho. It's in this very second verse of the whole Bhagavatam, which is, he would give 2 basic definitions of this: submissive oral reception. In other words, complete receptivity without static, hearing very attentively, and then ardent hearing, to take in these words and, if possible, memorize some of them. I can show you how to do that and make them part of our life and guidance for our life. So that's how you approach the Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam is, as we read those beautiful verses at the beginning, we should accept it as a guiding light for our lives and gradually imbibe the teachings and incorporate them into our lives. And then you appreciate more and more of the Bhagavatam.
Maybe Friday on our class with you on Patreon, you can maybe give us some verses that you think are sweet verses that we want to flow out of our mouths. What can I learn? And maybe you could lead us through some that we can memorize them ourselves. So maybe we can do that. Can be sort of our homework, and we can add more and more to our brain. I must
admit, there's nothing I would like to do better. I want to have more chanting partners. I want to.
We'll be your chanting partners.
Did you hear this one? No, there's a verse about that the verses about how devotees meet together and share their realizations right in the Bhagavad Gita. This is verse 2 of the 4 essential verses of Bhagavad Gita. So what do devotees do when they worship? They come together and Machitta, their consciousness is on me, their life energy is directed to serving me. And when they get together, they share their realization and they enjoy transcendental bliss. Tushanticha damanticha. They're very satisfied and they enjoy transcendental happiness. And you can see that in spades in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Lord Chaitanya is.
This is the only message board I ever want to be on. All this, everybody's just like glorifying and great appreciation. We're all blissful. We're tearing up. Kaustubha's giggling like a child.
It's proof that actually all of the stuff that we're getting absorbed in, the Netflix and the this and the that, it's bringing us down.
Brings us down.
And ultimately,
those news apps. No one's feeling good after the news.
But it's this spiritual sound of Bhagavatam and these works of these great saints and the spiritual sound that's connected to God. When we connect with it, we feel good. We feel happy. We feel
because Krishna inside the heart. He's appreciating. We're hearing about him, and he's giving us the bliss. It's all coming from the ocean of nectar. In the Bhagavatam, there's verses about that.
Yeah.
There's a verse about everything.
This is life. We do our work that we have to do in the world. But because we're being live, and because every evening we come down, we sit together in the village, and someone's going to sing a kirtan, someone's going to sing Bhagavatam verses, someone's going to do devotional poetry, someone's going to do devotional dance, and in this way, you have your entertainment that we all need.
Yeah,
but it's all lifting you up. It's bringing you to the goal, and everybody starts to feel soft-hearted and treats each other with kindness, and you just build a beautiful community, right?
Yeah. There's a verse about that. When devotees meet, they glorify the Lord, they develop friendship amongst each other, they experience transcendental bliss, and they cultivate their detachment from all of the Maya and all the illusion that's bringing us down. This is what this society is all about. This is why
it's such a nasty world out there. People are just trying to kill each other, tear each other down. Even good
wasn't that
people.
the theme of your band, Give Me Shelter? Wasn't there a band like that, Shelter?
Yeah, that was our band.
This is it. Shut it up, shut it up,
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I'm so excited for this.
Yeah.
Dravida Prabhu, can you explain, especially for the regular listeners? We've got a lot of regular listeners here that show up at 5 a.m. every day. We talk about worship of Krishna from a Judeo-Christian perspective. We get it. There's a God, a higher power, a source. But then we're throwing in this little twist. There's a female God too, Radha Krishna. How are we supposed to understand what is Radha? Who is Radha? And concisely, because I know people go on how should we understand Radha? And do you have some verses glorifying Srimati Radha Rani?
Oh my God! Well, now do you have another hour or two? If and when you read the Chaitanya Charitamrita, you'll come across the verse, like in the first chapter. I think it's verse number 4 or 5 at the beginning, and it describes who Radha is. Radha Krishna Panihivikutiya Ladhini Shaktirasmat Ekatmana Vabhigupadadeha Bedam Katacha. And it gets into how the relation of Radha and Krishna and Lord Chaitanya. But the first line is exactly an answer, and there's a whole chapter there, chapter 4 of Adi Leela of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that deals with Radha and Krishna. There's a whole section just on Radharani. So what this first line says, the first words, Srimati Radharani is a transformation or a manifestation of pure love for Krishna, of prema. And she and Krishna are one. It's just like the sun and the sunshine. In other words, she's not different from Krishna, but she's not exactly the same. This is a part of this Achincha Beta Beta Tattva, which we may have to get into, that is inconceivably simultaneously one and different. But to understand Radha, you need to understand, what Krishna is all about. And the wonderful thing is you can understand a lot about God by contemplating your own life and your own self. And that is that, what is it that really makes life worth living? And we have this term called rasa in Sanskrit, which really doesn't have a perfect translation. Mellow doesn't exactly do it unless you explain it. But it's the pleasure that comes from relationship with other human beings, also other, non-human beings, and even material things that we have. If you think about it, it's our relationship that is a source of pleasure, but in this material world can also be the source of pain when those relationships don't work out or they turn opposite to what we hope. But in the ideal world, Krishna, he lives for rasa. This is his enjoyment. In fact, there's one phrase from the Upanishads, raso vaisa, that the absolute truth is rasa. So, in other words, what would I do if I was God? What would I do?
Yeah.
So I would be all powerful and everything. But when you think about it, what really causes, where you get pleasure is in, loving relationships with others. I mean, we have that in our life. We have our wife and our husband and children and all these things. And, this makes life worth living. But it's so frustrating in the material world because it comes to an end, or sometimes it turns into the opposite. We've all had experience of that. And it's limited by time and many other circumstances.
You mean there's pain in the material world?
Yeah. Yeah, everything's going pretty swimmingly. I got it all together, and then COVID-19 comes. My God, what happened? The roof fell in. So this is the material world. But in the spiritual world, in the idyllic world, everything is perfect because it's under the control of the Supreme Person. He's controlling all the energies. And so when Krishna wants to enjoy, he's expanded now. Eternally, he's expanded as Srimati Radharani. And not only Srimati Radharani, she also expands. All the other gopis are expansions of her. And there's all of these varieties of how they enjoy loving exchanges. Nothing is boring, nothing is trite, and nothing gets old. There's no movement of time. I heard Prabhupada say this on the tape, that there's no past, there's no future. There's only the eternal present, ever fresh. So that Srimati Radharani is Krishna's energy, internal energy, Ladini Shakti, pleasure energy. And she personifies prema. And she's compassion personified too. When we do a little service for Krishna, it's mediated by Radharani, and she says, calls attention to Krishna. You know, you can think of it like this. Look, she's serving you, and she draws you in and gives you that happiness that comes with serving Krishna. And so this is, Srimati Radharani is the empress of Vrindavan. You know, everything is going on to please Krishna, make everything idyllic for Krishna's pastimes, especially the pastimes with the gopis, but all the pastimes, because she's in charge. She's the internal energy. So it's hard to, we don't understand just how it works. It's inconceivable, but she is Krishna's dearmost devotee, and the loving experience between them is just it's eternally attractive and varied, and this is our object of meditation. So this is, and Srila Prabhupada has given us, insight into that with his Chaitanya Charitamrita, the Nectar of Devotion, and there are so many books describing in detail. So yes, God is varied, inconceivable, and one of his manifestations is this female form that we can worship.
Thank you.
There's a lot there. I mean, it's a big topic,
I just got a text from Divya Mbar. Divya Altar. She says, thank you for hosting the absolutely blissful interview with Dravida Prabhu. I am in ecstasy. So you made her happy. Maybe we're coming to an end. I have, a selfish question to ask, because there's something that I've never gotten straight, and maybe you can help me with it. I'm not sure. But the verse, very important verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Naham Vipro Na Chanarapatir, this verse.
Yes.
I never understood the meter to chant that. Do you have a way that we can chant that verse? Maybe you could explain about the verse.
You heard the Barha-Pidam verse I chanted earlier. That Barha-Pidam Natavadavapu Karnayo Karnikaram. It's the same meter.
Okay.
Naham Vripro Nachadadapatir Napi Vaishyo Nashudro. Naham Varni Nachagrihapatir Novanasto Yatirva. Kintu Projan Nikalapadamanam the Purnam Ritabdir. Gopi Bartu Padakamalayo Dasa Dasa Dasa.
Thank you. Now I have it recorded, so I can go back to it. Could you maybe, to wrap up, could you explain about that verse?
Yes, this is a great verse. It's an original verse by Lord Chaitanya, though it's not the Shikshastra. And so he's saying what he's not first. And just in 30 seconds, let me explain something. In my involvement with Ramakrishna Mission, which I didn't get into in my path to Krishna consciousness, there was a song that we sang that was by him. And devotees don't know this song. And it said,
by Ramakrishna or by
Shankaracharya.
By Shankaracharya.
Sanskrit, yeah. And it was similar to this. I forget the words now, but it was, I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm not this, I'm Brahman.
Neti.
And I think that Lord Chaitanya may have written this verse as an answer to that. This is my theory, but I have to investigate that. So what Lord Chaitanya says, I'm not a Brahman, I'm not a Kshatriya, I'm not a Vaishya or Shudra, I'm not a Brahmachari, I'm not a Grihastha, householder, I'm not a celibate student, a householder, I'm not a retired person or a sannyasi. I'm simply a servant of the servant of the servant of the lotus feet of the gopis, the servant of the lotus feet of the servant of Krishna, the master of the gopis in Vrindavan. In other words, this is God himself in the mood of his own devotee, teaching us how humility is the key. That unlocks the door of everything. To really embrace that role as a servant of Krishna through the line of his pure devotees. And this opens up everything. So that's what that's all about. As
Thank
meters,
you
want to come, I can give you meters. You got meters.
Meters of meters.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, everybody's interested, and we just want to thank you.
Yeah.
We're all inspired. And, we learn so much in the yoga system about detachment, and the material world is Maya, and I'm not the body, and I'm not this flesh, and it makes sense. And, the material world is temporary, and we get very thoughtful, and we are temporary, our families are temporary. But what you've done is you've injected the essence, which is actually, okay, it's all temporary. What's the joy then? And this rasa, or this sweet relationship we have with divinity, is our joy. Thanks for bringing that out.
And that can be brought into the family too. Probably one of these has to become a temple.
Thank you so much. We're looking forward to having Dravida Prabhu back on Friday for our Patreon class. If you'd like to join us there, it's patreon.com/wisdom of the sages. You give something from your heart, you're in. Starting tomorrow, Lori Pag, Senior Dharma Mitra teacher, is teaching tomorrow at 10 a.m. Then Wednesday, Kumi again at 6 p.m. And then Jamuna Jaya at 10 a.m. on Thursday. So join that little Patreon party. Thanks for everybody joining us
And then
on
Friday.
Facebook Live. And then Friday, we're back with what a week. What a week.
We're back with Dravida Prabhu.
I am so feeling good right now, ready to face my day.
We have a little kirtan at the end of every show.
Really?
Yeah, there's a little dance party.
It's a little dance party. We like to bring it in.
Oh, there you go.
Thanks for all the people joining us on Zoom I didn't get to say hi to. If you'd like to join us on Zoom, all you have to do is email Mara, wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. Tomorrow we start live at 5 a.m. It's exciting waking up before anybody wakes up and just hearing the Bhagavatam. It recalibrates our brain so we can face this world that is, at the very least, it's temporary. So get us grounded, actually. How do you get grounded in a temporary world? Hear the Bhagavatam on a regular basis. Hear truth on a regular basis.